mega vessels crisscross the world's shipping lanes, carrying goods crucial to our daily needs. Key in making that on-time delivery, vast port and maritime ecosystems. It's an intricate one, where every component must run like clockwork. Port cranes lift 1.6 million tons of cargo in a single day. Rigs built to withstand the extremes of nature.
It's almost like raising a kid.
And megaships the size of skyscrapers are overhauled.
Are you on the way down? I'm at the quayside now.
Together, they form a complex web that brings us everything from the food we eat to the clothes we wear and even the cars we drive. All this on an island barely half the size of New York City, Singapore. This is one of the world's busiest ports. It is a 24/7 operation. Around the clock, hundreds of vessels descend on its terminals, bringing with them 2.3 billion tons of cargo each year. In less than a day, the container ship APL Le Havre will be sailing in, right into the port's busiest period. Measuring 2/3 the length of the Empire State Building, the megaship will need to weave through a busy shipping highway that is also one of the world's narrowest and most dangerous, where one wrong move can spell disaster.
Message received. Stand by the channel at all times. Confirm information.
The most challenging part is we are handling one of the narrowest channel in the world. We have to predict, plan in advance if there's any potential conflict that will build up.
The Vessel Traffic Information System, or VTIS control room, is the heart of the port's operations. Here, controllers like Captain Chong Chia Chuen manage the massive traffic buzzing through Singapore's crowded shipping lanes. By providing information and warnings to shipmasters navigating the busy Singapore Strait and port waters.
Okay, this position I reserve for APL Le Havre. Now in the transit in the strait now.
Okay, we'll monitor her. Alright, pick up pilot at boarding ground.
Today, the port is equipped with advanced technology that can track up to 10,000 ships at any one time. But barely 200 years ago, the island was a simple fishing village. The British acquired Singapore in 1819 as a foothold along the lucrative Malayan Peninsula trade route. With trade prospering exponentially, the seeds of a shipping hub were planted. Post-independent Singapore continued to grow by developing other wharves across the island and bringing in container ships. By the turn of the 20th century, Singapore had become a major trading hub. This port city has grown from a colonial trading outpost into one of the biggest shipping players on the planet, driven by a diverse network of maritime services. Captain Chong is plotting a safe path for the incoming APL Le Havre, allowing it to weave through peak hour traffic. But the route designated for the megaship only has a clearance of 3.5 meters between the ship's hull and the seabed. An unforeseen obstruction under the waters could pose serious dangers. To ensure the ship's safety, Captain Chong needs eyes underwater to scan the very ocean floor. A job that now falls to the port's hydrography team. Ing Huang Tai Lo is part of Singapore's maritime ecosystem. His mission: to take a picture of the shipping lanes and check for any hidden dangers that may be lurking underwater. His area of operations, 100 by 100 meters square, right smack in the middle of the busy shipping lane.
The challenge of our job is what we're looking at are things that we cannot see. We have to rely on other methods to detect what's on the seabed.
Ying Huang will need to deploy sonars, a device that bounces sounds against the ocean floor and reveals crucial information about the conditions underwater. But the accuracy of the scan may deviate greatly, depending on the water's temperature and pressure. The team will have to first deploy a state-of-the-art sensor to gauge the water conditions.
We're waking up the device, we're turning it on.
This is the water pressure sensor, the temperature sensor, and this is actually for sound velocity. This device, although it looks very small, but it's actually doing a very precise operation, and it actually logs reading as soon as it touches water. Wind is coming from here, so it will just drop it over this side.
Okay, you would think that Singapore, being a small island with small port waters, wouldn't need to be surveyed so often. But the fact is, with the number of ships we come in, safety is very important. We need to detect dangers almost immediately.
Having collected the data crucial for an accurate sweep, the team is now ready to deploy the main sonar device and begin the actual mapping of the ocean floor.
An analogy on land would be like a huge highway with lots of trucks going past. And the thing is, somebody comes in, changes that highway, but nobody can see the changes, and that's where we come in, to tell people where the new highway is so that all those trucks can go by safely.
With the mapping of the ocean floor complete, hydrographer Ying Huang now analyzes the data and updates traffic controller Captain Chong with his findings.
So for Le Havre container vessel of a size and a draft, she can safely approach to Eastern Boarding Ground Alpha with no issues.
But as advanced as the port of Singapore is, there is still time-tested fail-safes that cannot be replaced.
We have tanker vessel and container vessel is coming in, and everyone is moving in this area. The light must be on at night time.
Manika Velu is the keeper of the Raffles Lighthouse, a beacon of light that has guided ships to Singapore safely for nearly 160 years. First constructed by the British in 1855, the lighthouse was a response to the increasing trade passing through the island. The port soon became an important hub between British India and the Malay Peninsula. Standing at the southernmost tip of Singapore's port waters, the structure marks the entry into the island's shipping lanes even today. Manika Velu's task: to ensure that the light never goes out.
There's a lot of corals over here in this area, and once a vessel is moving around in this area, it doesn't know in the night what is the most dangerous. The captain will misjudge. So that's why we need this lighthouse. It's very important over here. What are we going to do over here is that we will check whether before the thing is on by automatically, we will check it manually. Number 1 is on. You can check that. Okay, and we'll check for number 2.
The lighthouse may seem like an ancient device in our modern times, but with a rotating beacon that projects light over 20 nautical miles, it will be the only visible guide to the APL Le Havre and the 1,000 ships making port at Singapore each day. A guide that becomes crucial should the port's advanced technology ever fail. What does the future look like?
Science fiction is the roadmap for where we're heading.
A virtual reality where aging is dead.
What if you could live forever?
Where AI live with us.
Machines will get some kinds of rights.
And within us.
The dangers of trying to go where God intended us not to go.
Can you see the future? You're about to.
Growing up in a quaint side town has had its ups and downs. I remember the days when we sustained ourselves on the basics, such as fishing. Progress was slow. That was then. Today, Petronas has stepped in. The PIC project has brought us new hope. It provides countless jobs, creates business opportunities, gives rise to new industries, and uplifts overall economic development. With Petronas, the locals are empowered to take on challenges we never thought possible. However, this is just the beginning for Pengerang.
When the land is alive and full of energy, Earth is more than just sand and stone. Water doesn't just flow, it fuels. Fire becomes a symbol of hope. Metal helps shape the future, while wood helps protect the past. Uncover incredible stories in China Revealed, Saturday nights at 7 on National Geographic.
In 1973, engineer Martin Cooper created the world's first functioning portable cell phone. He spent another 10 years redeveloping the prototype into the first commercial cell phone ever released. The handset offered approximately 30 minutes of talk time. Forever changing the way we communicate, Cooper is indeed an everyday genius.
Looks like a war zone.
When the going gets tough, the tough keep pulling.
Hold it! Get out of there!
Whoa, 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 whoa!
Biggest fear? Not making it home.
Highway Through Hell, tomorrow night at 10 on National Geographic.
The city-state of Singapore handles 1 in 7 of the world's transshipment containers through its port operations. The APL Le Havre is one of around 100,000 vessels sailing the containers into the port for transshipments each year. Measuring 350 meters from bow to stern, the APL Le Havre is longer than the Eiffel Tower. Steer the mega vessel through the crowded water will be a tricky operation. It is a job that calls for the mind of pilots.
There will be a certain degree of nervousness because if you do not feel nervous, then you will be a very dangerous pilot.
Mabel Hu is one of only 3 female harbor pilots at the port.
Well, I went to sea at the age of 18. And when I was sailing, I noticed that harbor pilots, with ease, they just move all these huge ships into the harbor. And I'm in awe of them. I think it was by coincidence that I came into this career, but I've never regretted it since then.
Mabel is now armed with 10 years of experience and a Class A1 pilot license, making her fully qualified to handle ships of length and gross tonnage. But even then, boarding a megaship has other challenges.
I remember this particular incident with the captain several years ago. He told me 2 things that he doesn't like on his ship: umbrellas and women. It was tough when you're being judged and stereotyped all the time. But it is getting better now because people realize that I'm serious in what I do. Morning. Captain, so we work as a team, the bridge team. If there's any doubt, please speak up. Yeah, and we all keep a lookout together.
Mabel's task is to assist in piloting the mega vessel through the peak hour rush.
This ship right ahead of us, she's going to the anchorage. So we will wait for her to cross and then we will make our way in. Yeah?
That's like weaving through a congested highway with a massive cement mixer.
Good morning, boarding ground Alpha to K1.
Beyond the Alpha, ready to proceed.
It makes it quite challenging when we are bringing a ship of this size. It's more than 3 football fields. It takes a long time to steady her on her course. Our clearance to Hyundai, 30 meters. Tugboat for APL, Ahab.
But even with state-of-the-art technology that tracks the ship's every move, training and experience are key.
Shall we bring everything outside? Okay, you can push full power to starboard, no headway.
Mabel's next challenge is to help berth this ship, much like trying to parallel park a vehicle, except this one is nearly 70 cars long. And with less than 30 meters clearance from the next lot, one wrong move could spell disaster.
Stop engines.
But now, strong winds are blowing in from the northeast, threatening to blow the ship off course.
The wind is pushing us out. 39 push full to starboard. Let's help with the engines, yeah? Dead slow ahead.
Yet, the situation fails to faze both Mabel and the ship captain who work in tandem.
We are almost there, yeah? 20 meters. Okay, 20. 39, stop, 39. We are always tuned into the changes that's happening all around us. Mother Nature, you can't predict that, and you must always be on your toes to react in the safest possible way. In position, is it? Position. Okay. So now we have finally landed and gotten the ship into the position that was allocated by the berth. I'll see you again.
Take care.
Yes.
But the port is only a small part of a complex web of operations that also includes shipping, maritime services, and offshore and marine engineering. It's an ecosystem that must work in sync to keep global shipping lines moving. As cargo from the APL Le Havre is transported to different terminals and loaded onto ships bound for any of the 600 ports linked to Singapore, refueling and maintenance repairs must take place. At the same time, ship brokers and shipping agents will have to close the deals for the ship's next cargo run to ensure the constant exchange of goods around the world, from basic necessities to construction materials. They transport the things we need for our daily lives. All this must happen even before the APL Le Havre leaves the port of Singapore again in less than 24 hours. Trade on the high seas powers life as we know it. Everything from the coffee you drink, to the shoes you wear, to even the car you drive, travels aboard the megaships that crisscross the world each day. And then, there is a 1 in 5 chance that these ships would have made a stopover in Singapore, one of the busiest transshipment hubs in the region, where a complex system waits to process the 2.3 billion tons of cargo that come through its shores annually. And on the front lines is the Port Control Center.
The most stressful part of our job, I think it will be the scope of what we handle in the control center. We move 90,000 containers through our Singapore terminals every day.
Ung P. Ree is a control center deputy manager whose job is to direct the terminal's daily cargo traffic. The team's current task is to unload a ship carrying over 10,000 containers and reassign the cargo to ships bound for other destinations. The stakes are high. One missed connection could cost thousands of dollars.
The largest vessel that I've worked with is longer than 4 football fields, so that's pretty cool. The value that we bring to people around the world, because we're a transshipment hub, is very impressive. If you look around, it's hard to find something that didn't come through our container terminals.
Singapore is situated at the midpoint of the east-west trade route. Its strategic position has made it one of the world's largest transshipment hubs, moving 15% of the world's container transshipment volumes. For consumers in Europe waiting for the arrival of the latest made-in-China gadgets, whether they get their toys on time depends on PROE and the rest of the maritime shipping and services all working in sync. At the port terminals, massive key cranes are already moving to PROE's plan. Weighing over 800 tons, each mechanized crane can handle massive cargo loads. Depending on the size of the ship, up to 8 of these cranes can be working simultaneously to unload the containers marked for other destinations and reload fresh cargo for the vessel's next port of call. PROE has to deploy these heavy lifters in coordination with transport trucks that will pick up or drop off the cargo.
Hey, Teresa, you have a filled container. Where's the container physically? That's load, right? No, here. Okay. But where's the yard? Where the last two coming from?
But sometimes the unexpected can happen. Missing out on just one container can cause a serious delay.
220. Keep the load.
But with just some thinking on their feet, the team can get right back on track. The next step is getting the unloaded cargo to the right places. Some of these containers will be transported to warehouses on the island itself. But over 85% of the goods need to be directed to vessels headed for other destinations across the world.
Shipping has always been and will probably always be the most cost-effective ways of transporting cargo.
With hundreds of containers being transported every hour, keeping track of each shipment can be a tall order. To solve the problem, PSA uses advanced IT systems called PortNet and its flow-through gates. These are checkpoints that every cargo truck moving between terminals, or those meant for import or export, must go through. Armed with state-of-the-art sensors, each counter will scan containers passing through and determine intended destination. Whether it is another ship within the terminal or a warehouse on the island within a matter of seconds, every shipment goes to the right place. From here, the rest of the maritime industry must take over in order to keep the lines of trade moving. The action now moves from the port and into the shipping teams. Ultra-large container vessels can cost over $100 million per ship, a cost that can only be recovered through constant cargo runs. Which means that every minute a ship is idle in its berth, its owners are bleeding money. Andrew Barker leads his company's Asian Pacific operations in Singapore. His mission, to ensure continuous trade flow of commodities transported on ships like the APL Le Havre.
Our business is very much around operating. We're essentially trading the ships and the cargoes around the world. So we take anything, it can be coal, it can be iron ore, fertilizers. There's a whole host of different commodities that we're carrying on the ships today.
Shipping operators like Andrew ensure that the goods are transported across the world in the cheapest and fastest way possible, lowering shipping costs that would otherwise be passed on to end consumers like you and me.
The markets are changing all the time, whether it be commodity prices, whether it be fuel prices. So there's a lot of volatility in these different markets which you're having to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Adding to market volatility is stiff competition. There are over 80 ship brokering companies in Singapore alone. Ragnar Berg works for a company that deals with vessels carrying bulk items such as cement and iron, crucial materials for the booming construction industry in the region.
Think of a job as a bit of a matchmaking. We have someone who needs to move a cargo. They need to find the right type of ship at the right timing, at the right price. So our challenge, of course, often is to match this together.
But Ragnar and his colleagues have to move fast and cut deals for the hundreds of ships currently berthing at the Singapore port.
I got an indication from ACE, Turkish are still interested. So, they started about 65.
If they don't secure a deal quickly within the next 24 hours, the ships will leave the port empty-handed.
Clean?
Yes.
First picture?
Yes.
Ragnar's colleague has secured her very first deal for the company. It's her first fixture as a new broker that calls for a mini celebration. Meanwhile, the APL Le Havre is now loaded up with new cargo. But it cannot set sail for its next destination without fuel.
Average safety is maybe 1, go ahead.
MP1, can you proceed to Passenger Terminal?
Okay, roger, proceed to location for Western working.
Refueling the ships is a massive task that the Port of Singapore operates with utmost care.
This is how much the rate for 1 hour. This total with delivery.
At sea, there is no sound sweeter than this.
Run!
We can't lose this fish!
I have a family to support.
And the bigger the sound,
This is why we do this!
the bigger the payday.
You don't catch, you don't get paid.
The tuna gods are shining down on us today.
Wicked Tuna, tonight at 9 on National Geographic.
I felt like I failed. There was part of me that knows that by the time I got back, it would be too late. That I was literally their last hope.
The groundbreaking series returns, revealing the dark truth that aviation safety advances one crash at a time. Air Crash Investigation, Tuesday nights at 11 on National Geographic. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate fact from fiction. Is climate change real? Is organic food really organic? Is your mobile phone spying on you? In an era of alternative facts, the truth awaits you. Subscribe to National Geographic magazine and get online access to every issue since 1888. Visit ngm.com/ngoffer.
What does the future look like?
Science fiction is the roadmap for where we're heading.
A virtual reality where aging is dead.
What if you could live forever?
Where AI live with us
Machines will get some kinds of rights.
and within us.
The dangers of trying to go where God intended us not to go.
Can you see the future? You're about to.
Singapore is the world's busiest bunkering or ship refueling port, another crucial part of its thriving maritime ecosystem. Each year, bunker sales hit nearly 43 million tons. Bunkering or fuel supply ships park beside container vessels at their berths and refuel the ships using a pipeline. At the same time as cargo loading and unloading take place. But maintaining such a massive operation has its dangers. The high volumes of flammable fuel can spark potential disaster. This is where Andy Johan and his team of port inspectors step in.
Every day is a different day, but then again, you have to be prepared for the unexpected.
Andy has spent the last 15 years as a port inspector. His mission, to ensure that the port's regulations are closely adhered to, and to act as the quick response force in the event of any unforeseen crisis.
My first day of work was actually during a major incident. We were still doing training actually, and we had to go and assist, and that was an eye-opener actually. Our christening into marine incidents. It was a major operation actually.
To prevent such accidents from ever happening, Andy and his team must be vigilant. Today, it's a standard spot check.
Maritime safety is maybe a one, go ahead.
MP1, may proceed to Pasir Panjang Terminal.
Okay, roger, proceed to location from Western Working. Proceed straight to Pasir Panjang Terminal, berth number 3. We go on board a bunker tanker, and we actually go and do an SS600 check, and at the same time also have a look at the mass flow meter that is currently in progress. Captain?
Captain.
Very good. For master, yeah? Okay. Can I see your cargo movement records?
Cargo movement?
Betul. Tenang, ni SB nombor berapa? SB? It's more like how you project yourself to the shipping community. If you are too firm, people are kind of like afraid of it, which is not really that good. And if you are not firm enough, they tend to climb all over your head. So it's a mixture of like diplomacy and firmness at the same time. Okay, we'll be actually going down to the deck to actually check on the scuppers and also on the what do you call it, the mass flow meter and everything else does this.
Beside ensuring that safety regulations are followed, Andy also has to inspect the bunkering transaction, as errant tanker owners have been known to falsify the amount of fuel being sold.
This meter, this how much the rate for 1 hour, this total with delivery.
Okay, this one is basically to see that there's no tampering with the seal, because this flow meter is something like your petrol pumps on land, where actually it moves. Okay, if let's say there's any tampering, you can actually be supplying lesser than 1,000, like they're supplying 1,001. I mean, if they tamper with it, they can actually be supplying, it will show here as 1,001, but they actually supply something which is shortfall. So that's why there's a calibration seal on that. I mean, so far so good. The tanker is taken well care of. It's not oily at all. Look, the gloves are still clean. So most of it is kept up to standard.
But making sure that bunkering operations proceed safely is only a small part of Singapore's maritime ecosystem. The complex web of port operators, shipbrokers, and fuel providers have now set a ship like the APL Le Havre all ready to sail to its next destination, guaranteeing a constant flow of goods across the world that includes everything from the makeup you wear to the groceries that you need. But if any of the over 15,000 bulk carriers that ply the world's trade routes ever break down, it could affect the supply chain that powers our world's consumer civilization. To overcome this problem, Singapore has been running a mega pit stop for the ships that require an overhaul.
We have a very wide variety of repairs ongoing in the yard. We have the drill ships in the yard, and we have some major repair modification works going on.
Singapore first began as a ship services hub in response to the increase in vessel traffic during the late 19th century. following the island's rise as an east-west trading hub under British colonial rule. Now, it's one of Asia's leading hubs for ship repair and conversions. Alan Yao is the General Manager of Operations at Sembcorp Marine's new state-of-the-art integrated yard at Tuas, Singapore's latest mega-yard for marine and offshore solutions. He oversees the hundreds of ships, rigs, floaters, and platforms that come in for servicing each year.
When I first came in, of course, ships is pretty new to me. So it was 35 years ago, I was a project engineer. But well, I learned through the years, and after that, it catches on, and I find that this is where I should be.
Today, Alan has a project that requires his urgent attention. An oil drill ship needs intense modifications to be completed in only 3 weeks. But with only half the workers available to him, he's facing a massive challenge. As one of the world's busiest trading hubs, Singapore sees over 550 million tons of cargo passing through its waters. It's part of the transshipment route to other ports worldwide. The very lifeline of this industry, however, rests on the mega container ships that power this global trade. If these massive beasts of burden ever break down, it not only snaps that supply chain, it affects our daily habits. An item as mundane as a box of cereal might not even get to our table. To solve this problem, Singapore offers repair and upgrading services for various vessels, including the oil drill ship whose overhaul Alan Yao has been supervising.
It was quite challenging when owner came to us. They want to install a multifunctional deck, and they have a lot of piping work modifications on board. Because they need a very short turnaround time, so we were given only 21 days to complete this modification and upgrading work. Are you on the way down? I'm at the quayside now. Yeah, so the labor, especially for all these offshore vessels, every day the vessel is down here under repairs, so they are not getting any revenue.
But to combat the time crunch, Alan will need an army.
Presently, we have about 350 workers on board. We need to ramp up to around 700 to complete the structural installations.
The workers will need to physically replace the pipings as well as install the new deck required for the ship. To do that, they will require spare parts that have to be fabricated. Among the parts is a specific component for the ship's rudder, a mechanism that the vessel uses to maneuver in the water. The task now falls on the shipyard's workshop, where mechanical engineers like Calvin Yap work to ensure that the new component conforms to required specifications.
Okay, this morning we are going to machine the rudder pinter bush. Okay, I think you have set up onto the machine. All right, so I have the drawings here with me. Most of the ship we have has one rudder pinter bush. It's installed together with the rudder. It's the turning of the rudder. Outer diameter we are going to machine to 784. What is going to happen later is that the machine is going to turn with the pinter bush on top, and the cutter will cut the pinter bush itself.
To fabricate the required component, the machine is programmed to cut its exact dimensions from a block of raw material. It's a delicate operation with little margin for error.
If the machining is wrong, the material can be scrapped if it cannot be salvaged.
As the shipyard rushes to finish the repairs, another team must step up. They need to be certain that the work is in line with the International Maritime Code that governs safety regulations. There are over 4,000 ports in nearly 200 countries across the world, each with its own rules and regulations. For a ship to be able to call at any one of them, its modifications and repairs have to be lined with every destination's guidelines, failing which, the vessel and its precious cargo may not be able to come ashore. Cargo that may include that new washing machine that you need. Santosh Kumar is a ship surveyor. He monitors any modifications done on a vessel, making sure that they're in line with the international rulebook. His current assignment is a supply ship that's rushing to complete its repairs.
So this, after the repair, they will chop it off. The grinding has to be smooth, no? It's mainly the structural integrity, number one, and then all the closing arrangements like the hatch covers. This ship is a bulk carrier, so we have an IMDG code, that is a dangerous goods carriage. I was checking one of the probes where they measure the cargo temperature and the firefighting for the cargo hold and all that. This is something which we need to see for this type of ships. Okay, can you please help me to close this,
But Santosh thinks he may have spotted a problem.
Okay. I understand Sankey has already completed number 3 port and starboard DB, correct? Yeah. But is it certified to any standard? 2-4 starboard also is all?
In the event that his hunch is correct, he will have to file a report asking the ship owners to rectify the issue. It will be a costly delay for the ship.
If it is not going to get affected with your IAFS, International Anti-Fouling Certificate, it's fine. Chief mate asked me about the SSAS test yesterday.
Finished.
So radio surveyor came yesterday.
In fact, and they are waiting for us to test.
Yeah.
To make the dynamic test.
Yeah.
Fortunately for this ship, things are in order. It will set sail on schedule once the repair works are done.
I have been in this line for 23 years altogether. I'll never get bored, I think so. If you take this ship, we have got multinational crew. Of course, it's a challenge also to understand the cultural awareness. But at the same time, it's quite interesting to meet new people, new culture. And then in maritime industry, everybody work for the same goal and as a family. So it's quite satisfying in those terms, yeah.
The ship servicing and survey sectors are all part of Singapore's diverse maritime ecosystem that includes port operators, shipping companies, and even marine insurance agents. Together, they contribute over 7% to the country's gross domestic product. But it isn't all picture perfect. Singapore's thriving maritime industry may yet face a deep challenge.